I'm just going to move on to a discussion about a protest that I read about in the Morning Star involving Labour members in Bristol. Esther Giles, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Hiya. Can you tell us what the protest's about? It's on Friday, yeah. So why are you protesting?
We're protesting because the South West Regional Office has been at the forefront of destroying democracy in the Labour Party. So you'll know about the officer purges, where following the EHRC report, the regional offices were all geared up to suspend and punish officers that disobeyed the General Secretary's diktats. Well, there are around 70 officers suspended, and 20 of those, nearly 40%, were in the South West. So the South West Regional Office is pretty keen to get lefties suspended. I think we need to see this in a context of the desperate need to have a Labour government. We've already heard people talking about what the Tories are doing and how desperately we need public services and a Labour government. But what's happening is a Labour Party is purging socialists. It's used the EHRC report as an excuse to do that, but it's trying to shut down all socialists in the party. So it will turn into the Tory party and then be electable. That's what they think. So in the South West, in Bristol in particular, we've seen the regional office taking more and more draconian steps to shut down democracy and purge lefties from the party. So what happened when we set up a meeting back in November to discuss, not to discuss, but just to pass a motion in solidarity with Jeremy Corbyn? First of all, my email to members was sent to the Jewish Chronicle and they wrote an article about me. And then immediately after the meeting, the MP sent my email following the meeting to complaints, and then a week later, I and the chair were suspended. Because the secretary is the only person with access to member data, we then weren't able to contact members, and there have been no meetings in Bristol Northwest since November, into the meeting a couple of weeks ago, which was called an AGM, but which wasn't, because what happened after that is that the MP then started to use his access to member data to collate a right-wing slate for the executive committee and smeared the existing members of the executive committee in the meantime using his access to member data. Then the regional office arranged this meeting with the MP slate, and then the left-wing candidates that were on the slate, they smeared their reputations by putting in writing that essentially the members were saying things that were untrue when the members were calling out the deficits in democracy. So what do the oppressed do when they want to call out the oppressors? We want democracy in the Labour Party. And we think that there are enough members to make it happen. Well, what do? We protest. So that's what we're doing next Friday. We're going to call out the regional office. We'll have speakers there and we'll have megaphones. We'll call them out for their democratic deficit.
Another comrade in Bristol who's going to be part of the demo, Linda Mansell, you were part of a branch that has been. Can you tell us what happened to your branch?
Yeah, I can tell you about us. Until March this year, I was chair of the Lockleys branch of Bristol North West Labour Party. In March, the members of the committee met on Zoom, and we decided that we would formally resign because of the actions of regional office, that we could no longer be part of or seem to condone what was going on. So we resigned. A little bit about us. Lockleys branch was an active branch. We did things that branches normally do in the Labour Party. We had newsletters, we campaigned, we joined in community activities, you know, things you'd expect a branch to be doing. In fact, we campaigned in the 2017 and 19 elections, and I think we had the biggest Labour share of vote of the whole constituency. We had 2 Labour councillors. So, I mean, that all sounds pretty good. Unfortunately, in October last year, we had to select 2 new councillors for May's local elections because well, one of our councillors had died and something had happened to the other one. So, and we selected 2 candidates who were local, young, activist candidates at a properly convened meeting following the advice of the LCF that what we were doing was appropriate, and we were very happy with them. We would have supported them and we would have mounted a good campaign for them. Unfortunately, regional office didn't like our choice of councillors, and they just refused to acknowledge that. And any attempt on our part to communicate with them, to send them emails formally as a committee, individually, met with absolutely no response whatsoever. They just would not engage with us. And we tried contacting the NEC, various other people, anybody we could do to try and resolve the situation. However, it wasn't until March this year, which is 2 months before the local election, that people from regional office decided that they would run our selection process. They chose 2 candidates for us, so we didn't have a shortlisting meeting. That we didn't really have a selection meeting because there were only 2 candidates that they had selected for us. We knew nothing about them. We knew one of them, there was a delay in putting forward the 2 candidates' names because we knew that one of them, they said they had to get special dispensation for because you had been in the party for less time than she needed to be to stand for a councillor. And we had no part in any of those things that went on, which we thought was outrageous. And also, regional office seemed to be able to change procedures. They didn't seem to need to have a shortlisting meeting. They didn't need to have more than 2 candidates at a selection meetings so that we had a choice. They didn't need to tell us anything about the councillors who they chose for us. So anyway, it was outrageous. We were very angry. We resigned.
Right.
And then in the election, in May election, what happened is, where we are now, we've got.
Sorry, I haven't got very long. I'm just thinking.
Okay, very finished. We've now got 2 Green councillors instead of Labour councillors, and we have got no branch.
Wow.
That's a very
the time's sort of running. I'm trying to keep things on a tightish rein. Nicola, in Bath, I mean, Bristol's bad. Bristol's having a bad time. I thought Bath was like a quiet outpost where regional office would have no interest. What's going on in Bath, Nicola?
Good morning, Crispin and everyone. Yes, it's you know, the facade is a nice genteel city, but there's lots going on. I'm Nicola James, and until recently I was Bath's CLP's comms and social media officer. I and others believe that Labour's South West Regional Office are acting with factionally motivated bias and interfering in the democracy of Bath CLP and that of others in the South West region. Evidence of this includes wrongful suspensions and impugning the reputations of incumbent socialist EC officers ahead of our AGMs to elect new ECs. Region have been taking over AGMs of CLP ECs where there was a socialist majority for no legitimate or transparent reasons, and in doing so inferring a lack of competence and or wrongdoing by these officers. Cutting off the EC's access to organise, the system used to email members, and then emailing information to members that without evidence or proper process implied further inferred wrongdoing, unfairly prejudicing members against those officers standing for re-election. In Bath, 4 of our officers are registered disabled and several others have chronic health issues that are adversely impacted by stress. Regional office were made aware of this and reminded that the Labour Party has the duty of care to protect those with protected characteristics. However, as with most other communications, there was no acknowledgement, no apology and no consideration in their continuing behaviour. During our region-run AGM, members were muted. Points of order raised could only be communicated via the chat function direct to regional staff and not visible to the other members. Numerous valid points raised about rules and protocols not being followed were all ignored. Right-wing EC slates standing for election in some CLPs also gained unfair advantage as a result of certain right-wing Labour MPs using privileged data to email members ahead of those AGMs and making unsubstantiated allegations and derogatory inferences against incumbent Socialist EC officers. Members also reported that they believe their data was misused by persons phone banking them who had no authority to access and use their contact information for the purpose of promoting a right-wing EC slate. These are potentially serious breaches of GDPR, and I would ask other members who suspect that they've been inappropriately contacted to submit a complaint to the NEC. The only person on the NEC whose email I know off the top of my head is Mish Rahmans, and I think that's Mish for NEC, number 4, @yahoo.com, or you can message me on Twitter at NAJ562. Perhaps somebody could kindly pop that info into the chat.
Yeah.
All reasonable steps that are taken to notify members of an AGM, and along with other CLPs in our situation, Bath CLP's Secretary and Chair repeatedly emailed Region to inform them that many members weren't receiving notifications and to assist in identifying and reaching those members. Again, they were ignored by regional office. Bath CLP are normally transparent with ballot results of internal elections, giving a breakdown of the votes for each candidate. Region, in our case, simply announced that the right-wing slate had won all roles and have refused all requests for a breakdown of the votes. During their term, Socialist officers on the EC were routinely ignored by Region, whereas it became very apparent that certain right-wing unelected members had unfettered access to regional office, with Region bypassing the democratically elected EC and giving instructions, and with it implied authority to those unelected members. This complicit relationship between regional office and certain right-wing Bath CLP members not only undermined EC officers and membership democracy, it resulted in serious breaches of statutory legislation and health and safety by them at our CLP office. That put our members, the public and the assets of Bath CLP and the wider party potentially at risk. Region's behaviour and lack of response when made aware of the scale and gravity of this was equally unconscionable and further calls into question their fitness to be in their roles. Some right-wing members in Bath CLP made unsubstantiated accusations of being bullied, and without investigation or any proper process, immediately were given credence and action taken by regional office. In contrast, Socialist members who followed proper process and submitted evidence of actual bullying, discrimination and other serious issues have been ignored. Regardless of where we are on the political spectrum, we should all be deeply concerned that the factionalism and incompetence of staff paid with our hard-earned subscriptions are blatantly undermining member democracy, causing us to hemorrhage members, losing elections, and putting our members, the public, and party assets potentially at risk. Thank you for bearing with me and allowing me to share some of what has been going on, not only in Bath, but in other CLPs in the South West region.
Well, thank you, Nicola. Sorry, we're really running over time. I keep muting because my child's making a lot of noise. But look, Esther, can you tell people where to meet and then for Friday, where it is and stuff?
Yeah, so we'll put the address in the chat. It's just outside Bristol, really easy access from the railway station at Parkway and also from the motorway. So, and Muriel and I are doing recce this afternoon, so we'll put more details up on the Facebook event as well.